Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sam Norman, and I'm also joined by Josh Hancock today from University of the Creative Arts.
Good afternoon.
Hi, this is our joint webinar with a customer, so TOPdesk and a customer. So thank you all for joining us today. If I could just firstly go through the agenda for the day. So firstly, we're going to do some introductions about myself and also about Josh, why he's with us, who he is, etc. And following on from that, we'll have a bit of a discussion about the project at UCA, how it came about, things that you've learned from it, any challenges and lessons that you've had. And then, of course, we'll be answering questions at the end. But I must also stress as well that questions will be answered throughout by Amy. So she's going to be joining us today on the questions box. The general house rules, of course, for the webinar are that we would ask you to have the orange arrow collapsed on the GoToWebinar player, as always, just so you can see the full screen. And yeah, we hope that you learn a lot from the day. Okay, so introductions. A lot of you may have heard me on webinars before. So I'm Sam Norman, and I'm a sales consultant at TOPdesk in the London office. I have been involved in the webinars project since day one, and so I'm really excited that today we've got Josh with us, and I'm pleased that I can be hosting it with you as well. So Josh, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Great. Well, my name is Josh Hancock. I am one of the two IT project managers at the University for the Creative Arts in the IT Services Department, and I am the project manager on our service management solution project, which we've chosen TOPdesk for. So we're looking at going live on the 3rd of December. In December, and we're currently going to be going live with 3 departments, or service delivery partners as we're calling them, which is IT services, library and student services, together as a virtual shared service, and also estates and facilities.
Brilliant. And a bit later on, you're going to be discussing with us some of the tips and the lessons that you've learned throughout, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Okay, so firstly, how did this project come about? Where did it all come from? Why is it that you're with us today?
Okay, so at UCA, at the moment, our IT service provision for staff and students is currently separate and run by different departments. So our staff IT support is provided by IT services, the department I'm in, and our student support is mostly provided by library and student services. And while we're providing effectively the same service for different sets of customers, there's no crossover or collaboration or close working together, which can cause some issues in the long run. So we decided we wanted to bring that together to allow us to be able to work more effectively. And as part of that, we needed to look at a new tool because the current solution we use isn't really capable of managing multiple department usage. Yeah. So because of that, we decided to investigate what was out there in the market. As well as that, we're also spread over 4 separate geographical locations. So we've got 2 sites in Surrey, Farnham and Epsom, and in Kent we also have Canterbury and Rochester. As well as a satellite site at Maidstone TV Studios, and most recently the Open College of the Arts, which is a distance learning arts provider up in Barnsley. So their office is based up there. So we needed to look at something that would allow us to work with these different departments and these different locations in a clear, coherent, effective way. So we went out to tender. And we had quite a few responses come back, and obviously one of them was TOPdesk's, and the TOPdesk tender was the one that we chose. But also, while we were looking through the tender response from TOPdesk, we actually realised that the tool could provide us with so much more than just IT and library and student services, and we could see that other departments, and effectively any department in the organisation that delivered a service, would be able to benefit from that, from using the solutions. So it was kind of one of those rare times where scope creep actually we're hoping will provide great value to us.
Yeah, yeah. So just to clarify, so there were 2 departments that initially wanted to come together, but you felt that perhaps existing IT help desk software didn't really allow you to do what you wanted.
No, it didn't, unfortunately. So that's why we decided to look for a new solution.
Okay, brilliant. And you said that you saw added value by adding in other departments. So how did you start getting them on board? So what exactly was the onboarding process for you guys?
So as soon as we highlighted this, we started looking at what departments we had that delivered a service, both for staff and for students, and then we started looking at what they do as a service, and then seeing where those kind of departments cross over each other. I then set up meetings with key senior members of those departments to talk to them about what it is we're doing and how we think that it could really benefit them. And one way that we really encouraged the way it would benefit them was by giving them specific examples directly relating to what they do, and again, any crossovers it may have with other departments. So one example that I can give is with with library and student services and our academic registry or other student service elements within the organisation. If a student came up to the gateway in the library, said, I'm having financial difficulties, for example, the operator in the library can log all the information down that they need and then send that straight over to the other department that can resolve that for them, and then make that initial contact because they've got all the information there, and be able to resolve the issue for them sooner, meaning the student can then hopefully continue with their studies and feel that they can stay with us, retaining that student, which are in effect our customers. So it was customer retention really with that one.
Yeah, brilliant.
And because of that, quite a lot, well, all of the departments we spoke to are actually really keen to join. We've got estates and facilities who are going to be joining us as part of Go Live now, because they want to really get started. And we feel by using 3 departments to go live with rather than just the 2, it means we have more content on the system, especially with the self-service portal, and it will drive people to use the portal because there's a good, rich amount of content there, or there will be a good, rich amount of content there.
Okay, fantastic. And so by reduce the bounce, that just means that information stops being passed backwards and forwards between departments, between different systems. It's all in the one central location.
Yeah, so that's one of the key drivers for this, like you say, is to reduce the bounce, as we call it. And what that means is rather than having to send another email with trying to put all the information in there again to another department or another area, it gets logged once, it goes to one place or multiple places, but all of the information is there and the log is there to reduce the bounce back and forth, like a game of ping pong, to try and get that information, which just takes time and is a bad customer experience.
Yeah, so perhaps out of a university perspective, that might just be companies who are doing sort of shared services on an HR, IT, FM basis, but within the university there are so many departments that could use it and benefit from it.
Yeah, exactly. We've really highlighted every department that delivers a service can make use of this. And
I expect people have been quite enthusiastic about this.
Yeah, they have. Like I said, everyone we've spoken to has really, been interested in joining this. So they're really seeing what the potential benefits could be. So yeah, we're all really, really excited.
And so it's going to be the 3 departments that you mentioned going live at first. Maybe later there could be scope for others to be included as well.
Yep. So we're going to go live with 3 departments first, and then after that, once things are bedded in a little bit, we'll start engaging again with the other departments and bringing them on board in separate phases.
Great. So when it came to actually looking at the system itself and what you're going to put into it, how did you go about deciding what you're going to put in there and what the type of content was going to be? Yeah,
so for us, we currently, in particular with IT, we don't have a portal or a knowledge base or anything like that. So one of the key things that IT services want to focus on is getting a good amount of knowledge in there, as well as our services. This is because knowledge at the moment is scattered all over the place. We've got it in documents, stored on shared drives, got them on emails. Randomly we'll find a piece of paper that's got some instructions on it from 4 or 5 years ago that's still actually relevant.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to put it into one central place that not only can be used by our operators, but also can be used by the customers, by the staff and students, and really giving them and empowering them to self-resolve. So the whole concept that's been mentioned before, of shifting left to the customer, is something we really, really want to utilise and make use of. And And one way that we're encouraging to make the onboarding, so to speak, or the adding of that content simple for the project team is I've created some standardized templates for services, forms, and knowledge, as well as our tone of voice elements of our brand guidelines. So that way our stakeholders who are from those departments know what needs to go into the system, what kind of content, as well as how they need to present that content. So we can just give them to our business applications team, and they can just put that information in nice and easily because there is a lot that is going to be going on there over the next few months. And we think that by doing this, it will allow our operators to work more proactively in the long run, because where there are simple things that a customer or member of staff or student could resolve themselves, or operators not having to deal with that and tell them repeating those instructions that they may have done to someone else a few hours before or a few days before, meaning they it helps with them being more proactive in working on longer term kind of issues or IT related things.
Exactly, and hopefully your customers are also satisfied from the level of service they get as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how have you found it putting your services, your forms, and your knowledge in the system? Do you think it's been easy enough for you?
Yeah, it's been pretty easy so far. I mean, we found it very easy to understand how to create them in the software. Just dragging and dropping, and also I think by having the standardized templates, it's really helped the team have that starter for 10 really, in regards to what information they need to actually be putting in there, because one of the things we were wondering is, well, or the team was wondering, well, where do I start? What do I need to put in there? And that's really helped with that progress.
So it's really paid off, the fact that you made those standardized templates across the board so that any department could just follow the tone of voice of the university and then put that information within the system from the get-go.
And also that will benefit us when we bring other departments on in separate phases as well after the first go live.
Yeah, you've already got that content made. You can just send it out to them afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for the Estates and Facilities team, how have they found using an electronic system so far? How have they found playing around in the system?
So they've been really liking playing around in the test environment. They're really seeing what potential benefits they could draw out of it. I mean, they're coming from using telephone calls, emails, being collared down the corridor saying, oh, this tap's leaking, this light isn't working, oh, can you unlock this room for me? So it's going to really benefit them, I think, and also, give them that kind of management information as well in the long run that they currently just don't have and want to be able to make use of.
Great, fantastic. And talking about your processes then, so moving to a new tool, did you want to take a look at your processes? Are you trying to improve them?
Yeah, so we reviewed our processes. They haven't changed much. Thankfully, we didn't need to make too many modifications, but we did use it as an opportunity to refine them and kind of ask ourselves, do we need to do these things that we're doing within those processes? For example, as part of our current incident management process for IT, we are logging the time that spent on doing a piece of work, as well as actually writing what it is we've done. And we realized we're not actually using that information. Why are we bothering? So we decided to not do that, because that will save our operators that little bit of extra time to be able to then get started on the next call and get more calls processed and be more, and then in the long run be more proactive, because they're not having to spend this time logging information that's not actually being used.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that's really helped with that in regards to we're not over-engineering the management data that we're pulling out of the system now. We're only collecting we will be only collecting what we need. And this kind of approach is just going to help us kind of get a more refined, customer-focused kind of process going. However, there was one process that we couldn't change because it's been well defined, and it's one that we stick to, is our change management process. So what we're doing is we're able to modify the system and work with the system to be able to fit it into our process.
Okay, sure. So from your recommendations, you would say take a complete step back, look at it from an outer level, and see how you can get things refined across all departments, not just IT, where you are used to working from.
Yeah, you do have to take a step back and kind of think with a clean slate, a blank canvas, really, in some instances.
Yeah. And in terms of the old system that you're using or transitioning between, how has it been getting people to forget about it?
It was difficult at first. A lot of the thought process was, well, this is how we're currently doing it. I mean, this is how we do it in the current system. And okay, great, but you then have to ask, is that the best way of doing it? So it took quite a while to kind of hammer that through into people to get them to understand that actually, no, we need to think from a clean slate. We need to think blankly, think fresh. And as soon as that started to sink in and people started to think that way, progress really, really moved forward, and we really started to make good progress pretty quickly.
Yeah, so just look at it with a fresh pair of eyes.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't think about what you've been used to.
No.
Yeah, great. And so taking a look at any challenges that you've faced and lessons that you've learned across the university, good and bad. Can you give us some examples of what they've been?
Yep, so one of the initial challenges was the fact that obviously we're spread over across multiple sites, and each site works slightly differently because of how the organisation has grown over the years. So there was a mixture of that, and also between different departments, bringing together that kind of consistent approach. And again, that really started to improve when people started to think from a clean slate. Another issue that we found, which was more of a technical issue with TOPdesk, was the concept of branch filters. So obviously we have many campuses, which are also known as branches in TOPdesk, but because our departments are spread across all of those campuses, we need our operators to be able to work remotely for all those campuses. So if, for example, our Farnham campus is really low on staff, for whatever reason, someone from Rochester may, remotely check the tickets or the calls and help out where they can. But it took quite a while to kind of work out how we were going to do that, because we just couldn't think how we would get that done, and it took myself, my manager, and the consultant that we have to literally just walk up to a whiteboard in the office and just start drawing it out and mapping it out, and just having a stand-up kind of brain shower kind of thing, and it took a little bit of time, but once we did it, we got there, and we now have a solution using what's known as selections or views. And that's actually providing the kind of functionality that we require. Some of the positives that have kind of lessons that we've learned, we've discovered through how much we can actually shift towards the customer in regards to knowledge, self-resolving, logging information, getting the information that we require to begin with, and from that we think that will really help with being able to resolve our calls quicker, better customer experience. But again, to get there, it took the whole thing of thinking from a clean slate, thinking from fresh. But once we got there, as I mentioned, we were able to really get some good progress. We were able to start completely thinking out of the box and come up with some really, really good solutions and ideas to some problems that we were facing. But also, as we're going live in December, and we've actually been working on this for about 7 months now. So we're really taking our time, and that's one key thing. You have to take your time to get it right, because if you don't, it will end up being rushed. You don't get all the information in there you need. You may find there are services missing, and then it can provide a bad customer experience. And obviously, if you're going live with something new like this, you want to have a good experience, so that way it has a good reputation. And from that, we think that it will pay dividends by doing that. And using the self-service portal, so by taking our time, we can get a really nice self-service portal that will, in the long run, reduce the workload for our operators, because there'll be so much knowledge on there. People will be self-resolving, we'll be getting the information that we need, and then because it will be reducing their workload, it means that, again, as I mentioned earlier on, they can work more proactively. They'll be able to get on and focus on the kind of the bigger pieces of work, maybe whether that be creating new knowledge, or big issues, sorting out issues with the infrastructure, because that way then the calls will reduce even further, because there won't be issues happening because of those things. So that's kind of what we're hoping to get out of this, and we think we'll definitely see that. And from that as well, our benefits have mainly been quite soft benefits or intangible benefits. And one of the things that we realized as we've been going through the project and taking our time with it is actually there's quite a few systems we can replace that we currently are using that TOPdesk can do for us. So we've calculated that 1 year's worth of savings can pay for approximately 2.5 years of TOPdesk for us. So that's quite a big tangible benefit that we've discovered as we've been going through, and that scope creep has kind of been happening. Hence why I mentioned earlier on that scope creep is actually one of those rare, valuable opportunities.
And actually taking your time through the project has helped you realize the increased savings, increased benefits.
Exactly that, yeah.
So just really do take your time, don't rush, and then it will pay off in the long term.
It will, definitely.
And for you, so as a project manager, with all of these different campuses, what have you done to make sure that you've been keeping up to date with everyone, that everyone knows how the project's going? What have you been up to?
So I visit every site a minimum once a month because I want to just keep showing that I'm about and talk to people, and they're my catching up days with people, really. So I go around talking to people, telling them what we're doing, giving them updates, also getting their feedback and finding out what their issues are, to kind of keep that two-way conversation face to face, and that's proved really, really beneficial. Obviously, we have the usual ways such as email and telephone, and we also have an internal social media platform. So we use Workplace by Facebook, and in there we have a project group which is open to every member of staff, so they can join if they want, and we post updates on there. We get comments, people post things on there as well. So it's kind of this kind of social platform where everyone can talk about it and keep those updates going. So we've got quite a few channels of communication there.
Yeah. Sounds like you know what you guys are doing, really. And on a personal level, I just want to ask you, when you do go live in December, what are your plans for actually marketing the portal, the actual the software itself? What are you going to do from your end to make sure that you get word of mouth out to everyone?
Yeah, so we've been thinking about this quite a bit actually, and because it's quite a big thing for the university, this project and this solution, we wanted to do something quite big from a marketing perspective, and we were thinking, well, what could help people remember it, or think, oh, actually, I will go there. We were thinking about freebies. Now, we were thinking things like pens, but they get stolen, they get lost, they run out, they end up in the bin, they end up on the floor somewhere, and you never find them ever again. And it kind of occurred to us, well, actually, everyone has a desk. Everyone drinks a liquid of some kind, whether it be water, tea, coffee, whatever. So we thought, well, why don't we do coasters? Because we can print on the coasters the logo we're going to create for our portal, which we're going to call the hub, and then the link to it as well. And it will always be there as a reminder, and it won't be in the way or anything like that, so it's more likely to stay on the desk. Obviously, we're going to go through, use the usual sort of things as well, like posters, banners, flyers, marketing through our internal online channels, and things like that. So we'll have quite a variety.
I really like that idea of the coasters, actually. It's really,
yeah,
it's really
we haven't really seen that kind of thing before, so we think it's going to work quite well.
And also, how did you manage to decide on the hub?
Okay, so it all started with an evening meal out with the team. We were sat around a table, Chinese buffet, so plenty of food. We were all pretty happy, and we ended up getting onto the conversation as to what we're going to call the portal. And some of my colleagues were coming out with names that were quite left field, quite random, thinking something quirky, people would remember it. But I kept going back to this point of, but it's our central place for everything. It's our hub, really. And I was kind of reiterating the point that we need something that says what it does, not just some random name, because we're not big enough for that kind of thing to take off. So I kept reiterating the hub. So the next day we decided to put a poll on Workplace so people could vote for it, and the top 3 all had the same number of votes, and one of them was the hub. So we took those 3 to our marketing department and said, well, this is what we're thinking of, this is what it is, this is what the names that we've come up with, the top 3 names, and they just said, well, what you've just described is the hub. So we got the blessing of that, and also it will work quite nicely with our logo and our branding, so we can create a hub logo that looks quite similar to the way our UCA letters are formed. So we think that should look quite good.
And that was a small victory for you as well,
It
personal
was. It
victory.
was when we got the blessing. I did, have a little celebration.
I bet. So just to wrap things up and look at some final thoughts, could you give us your opinion? What would be your final takeaways from
Yeah,
the
so,
webinar?
so, so to kind of wrap up of what I've been saying and reiterate some key points. It's really important to be proactive in what you're doing. You need to go to your other departments, you need to understand what it is they do and tailor what you're telling them to them, because that way they will identify with it, they will relate to it, and they're more likely to buy into it. It's all about buy-in. Make sure you take a step back when you're reviewing what you do and how you want to implement it. You do have to think outside the box. You do have to think from that clean slate, and it will be hard to begin with, but you just have to be very persistent with the project team. Just keep going on and on and on, and they will get there, and they will thank you for it, because suddenly progress will kick off, and it will kick off really positively. And if you can, try and standardize what you're doing across those departments. The use of things like templates, which you can create, will really, really help them. It will give them that starter for 10, as I mentioned. And then, again, that will benefit with the progress and really push things along as well. But also, you do have to take your time. It's best not to rush this. And there is a lot of work that has to be put in. And if you do that, you will reap the rewards, really.
Yeah, so really, you get out what you put in.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Josh, for joining us. I hope it's been useful for everyone that's listening, whatever stage of the journey you're at, whether you're implementing a system or whether you want to share services. I hope that everyone's enjoyed what we've been discussing today. If there are any questions, then you can either email the UCA project team or email myself, and I'd happily get back to you. But for now, I'm just going to see if there are any questions that we've had through. Right, there's actually one here which says, we want to become more shared services focused, but departments seem to clash with the services provided. Is this something you felt at all? And if so, how did you overcome it?
So this isn't something we really experienced, and I think that was because, again, we took the time before we approached those departments to understand what it is they do, understand what services they provide, because, as I mentioned earlier on, by doing that, you can relate, you can make what you're selling to them, in effect, relatable to them, and then they can see from what you're saying the potential benefits that come out of that. So it's really, really key to take your time before you approach them, understand what they do, and also, where you can, potentially look at crossovers that can, different departments where they can share services, or where things are happening across departments, and how using a solution like this can really benefit them.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. I think that's actually all we've got time for now, but if you do want to stick around and ask any questions on the questions box, then we'll be hanging about for another few minutes to answer those. Thanks again, Josh, for everything and for doing this with us. I hope it's been a pleasurable experience.
It has. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been useful and enjoyed today.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.